What's good, guys? And in today's video, let me speak. We are reacting to his story. It's one of the fastest growing YouTubers, and it has 5.48 million views.
Okay, that's good.
So
Let's start with this.
let's start with the shorts and
Nah.
Populous.
I'm just gonna. I want to like.
So I'm already subscribing, even though I haven't watched a single thing.
What about liking?
I don't know. Live? Is he live? Yeah, he's live. But we're not gonna watch.
My twin brother Chris and I were 9 when we learned Morse code. We tapped messages under the dinner table when Mom told us to
Yeah, that ain't working.
stop talking and tapped through the wall between our bedrooms every night. When Chris got into a car accident and the doctor said he'd never wake up, I pulled up a chair next to his bed, took his hand, and tapped. Are you there? Nothing. But I came back the next afternoon and tapped again. Before I left, I always said the same thing. See you tomorrow, Chris. A week later, Chris's fingers twitched against mine, and I almost fell out of my chair. I grabbed a nurse, and she barely looked up. They're reflexes. It doesn't mean anything.
Bro,
I bought a
the
notebook
nurse
the
is
next day and
horrible,
started
like,
writing down every single one. 4 months in, Mom watched me scribbling and said, "How long are you gonna keep doing this? Until he taps back. He's not gonna tap back. You're talking to a corpse." Dad
What is the mom's problem?
lasted a few more months before he pulled me into the hallway. We need to talk about donating your brother's organs. His fingers.
Whoa. Okay. What are the comments saying real quick? Bro, comments aren't even, his parents didn't even sound like they care about his brother. Sad. Dang.
Move every time I
I
hold
like
his
that.
hand, Dad. The nurses said those are reflexes. Stop getting your hopes up, son. I don't care what the nurses say. You're not
Exactly.
donating my brother's
Look,
organs.
here's a
But a week
blue
later,
eye
my
and a
parents
green
called to
eye.
have Chris
Exactly, I
transferred to a
knew.
long-term
Those are
facility to
blue
die and scheduled a meeting to sign the papers. The afternoon before the meeting, I tapped into his palm like always, but this time, something tapped back. Short. Long. Short. SOS. I grabbed his hand. Chris, if that's you, squeeze once. He squeezed so hard my knuckles cracked. I stormed into the meeting room and told them my brother just responded to me. The caseworker said, "This is very common with families who aren't ready to let go." My parents nodded. I grabbed the transfer papers off the table. "You're not signing anything until you come see for yourself." I walked them to Chris's bed and grabbed his hand. "Ask him anything." The caseworker asked what year it was. Chris squeezed out the answer. Count to 5. 5 perfect squeezes. His mother's name, tapped out letter by letter. By the 10th question, she said, "He's still alive. We can't move him." Weeks later, I asked Chris what kept him fighting when everyone gave up. Heard Mom call me a corpse. Heard Dad say donate
he
my
heard
organs. Heard all of them leave, except you. I asked why. I wanted to see you too.
Damn, that was a good one.
Go like this. Go like this. What's this? Go like this.
Dang, that was a good one.
My daughter came home crying. My twin brother.
That was actually a pretty good first one. So I think I'm gonna drop a heart on that. Okay. Much better.
My
Next.
daughter came home crying
I'm
with an F
liking.
because her teacher doesn't know what color blood is. The first time I realized something was wrong, Riley came home from school holding out her arm. "Look, Dad, you can see the blue blood in my veins right here."
Wait. Is blood blue or red? No.
It's red.
It's red.
It's always techie.
Bro, what is wrong with you?
She traced the blue lines under her skin with her finger.
That's just
I
the
put down my
veins.
coffee and looked at her. "Actually, sweetheart, that's not true. Blood is always red because of hemoglobin. It's just darker red in your
Hemoglobin's
veins."
a
Her face scrunched up. But Mrs. Miller showed us a whole PowerPoint about it. She even had diagrams from a science book. The next morning, I packed my work
I don't know,
scrubs
but
in my
Riley just had
bag.
some
I'm
of
an
my
ER nurse at Mercy General, and I was working the afternoon shift anyway. I sent Mrs. Miller an email asking if I could do a quick presentation about blood for career day that afternoon.
Absolutely.
Wait,
We loved to have you speak to see you this afternoon. Well,
She loved the idea. When I arrived, Mrs. Miller introduced me as Riley's dad, who works at the hospital. 28 kids stared up at me from their desks. "I heard you guys learned that blood is blue inside your body," I said. The entire class nodded enthusiastically. Mrs. Miller beamed from her desk in the corner. I pulled out a blood collection tube from my pocket and held it up. "This is what we use to draw blood at the hospital. Notice something. The tube creates a vacuum. No oxygen in. When we draw blood with these, it never touches oxygen until we pop the cap off." I showed them photos on my phone of sealed blood tubes. "See? Still red." Mrs. Miller's smile started fading. She shifted in her chair and cleared her throat. A boy raised his hand and pointed to their science textbook. "But our textbook says it's blue." I picked up the book and checked the publication date, 1998. Medicine updates pretty fast. We used to
1998. That was like. Wait, guys, I need to do some math real quick. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's about like 27 or 37 years ago.
What my boy dad look like doing the lunch.
Bro, shut the hell up. Anyways.
Lots of things that turned out to be wrong. Mrs. Miller suddenly stood up from her desk, her hands gripping the edge. Well, thank you for that interesting presentation, Mr. Johnson, but we need to move on to math now. I nodded and started packing when a girl in the back raised her hand. So our textbook is wrong? The class erupted in whispers. Mrs. Miller's jaw clenched and her voice got tight. The curriculum says, actually, I interrupted, pulling up the state science standards on my phone. I walked over and turned my phone toward her. The current curriculum specifically mentions this myth as something to correct. She stared at the screen and her eyes narrowed. Her mouth pressed into a thin line, and her nostrils flared. Can I speak with you in the hallway? The kids watched as we walked out, and the door closed behind us. Do you have any idea how hard it is when parents undermine my authority? Her face was red, and her voice was sharp. Now they'll question everything I say. I kept my voice calm. Isn't that exactly what we want them to do? Question things and learn critical thinking? She crossed her arms tightly. I've been teaching for 22 years. I'm not changing my whole curriculum because some nurse thinks he knows better than our textbooks. The next day, I found out Mrs. Miller gave the class a pop quiz. Riley came home crying, her face red and puffy. Her hands were shaking as she handed me a paper with a big red F on it. I took a deep breath and felt my jaw tighten as I looked at the question.
What was that? Moving of the mouth.
I've been teaching for 22 years. I'm not changing my whole curriculum because some nurse thinks he knows better than our textbooks. The next day, I found out Mrs. Miller gave the class a pop quiz. Riley came home crying, her face red and puffy. Her hands were shaking as she handed me a paper with a big red F on it. I took a deep breath and felt my jaw tighten as I looked at the question. What color is blood inside the body? Riley had written red, and Mrs. Miller had marked it wrong. I requested a meeting with Principal Davis and brought printouts of medical textbooks, the state science standards, and Riley's quiz. The principal called in Mrs. Miller and asked her directly, is blood blue inside the body? After a long pause, Mrs. Miller said, it's what the children understand better. I leaned forward in my chair. My daughter is crying every morning before school because she's afraid of getting F's for writing down the truth. The next day, the school replaced their science books. Now whenever Riley learns something new at school, she comes home and asks me, Dad, is this actually true or is it just a Mrs. Miller truth? My daughter
I have one question. Why isn't the teacher fired?
Yeah, and one thing. Why
she should be fired.
On the head? Like, teach. You should be fired.
Nah.
The flight attendant slipped me a napkin that said,
that's not Captain Hopkins.
Pilot isn't who he said. The flight attendant slipped me a napkin
time.
that said, the pilot isn't who he says he is. Meet me in the back to talk. I knew she chose to tell me because of the military dog tags around my neck. I folded the napkin and slid it into my pocket, and that's when the captain's voice came over the intercom. Good morning, folks. This is Captain Hopkins, expecting smooth skies to Chicago, but something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. I waited 2 minutes and casually walked to the back, not knowing what to expect. The flight attendant was there with a man holding up a police badge. The man whispered, I'm glad you're here. I'm an undercover cop. I knew something was wrong straight away. The flight attendant whispered. I've flown with Captain Hopkins.
Alright, what is her mouth? Why are the people's mouth in this game like literally like basically
I don't exactly know what's wrong, but I know that's not Hopkins,
yapping.
and we're flying the wrong way. She showed me the flight map of where we were heading. The plane is heading toward an abandoned airport. I leaned over the map. My body was pumping with adrenaline because it was the perfect place to crash a plane. There's an empty space above the pilot's room. I can climb up and listen to what the pilot and co-pilot are planning through the ceiling. Take my number. If you can tell there's something fishy going on, text me one word, now. That's the signal to move. And to distract everyone while I climbed above the ceiling, the flight attendant made an announcement on the speakers to tell everyone to keep their seatbelts on. Through the cracks, I could hear 2 men in the pilot's room talking. 15 years ago today, our brother died because of Captain Hopkins. Now we get to crash his plane with him tied up on it while we impersonate him. I text.
Alright. If they knew that someone, why would they just say this together like out loud? That's just basically the #1 definition of stupid as stupid. Right?
Yeah, like, if someone is that, they would know.
The undercover cop. Now, the cart slammed into the pilot's room door, and the cop kicked it open. I dropped through the ceiling and tackled the fake pilot out of his seat. The cop pinned the co-pilot to the floor. The flight attendant grabbed the radio. Mayday, our pilot is gone. We need help landing right now. She looked at me. Find Hopkins, the actual pilot. He has to be on this plane somewhere. I sprinted to the back of the plane, checking every door. I yanked open the closet next to the bathrooms, and Captain Hopkins was inside with his hands tied.
Did you see Bro's face?
I ripped the tape off. Get me to the controls. He ran to the front and dropped into the pilot's chair. He grabbed the wheel. Tower, this is the real Captain Hopkins. I'm landing this plane. When we finally landed, the cops dragged the brothers off in handcuffs. The flight attendant came up to me in the aisle. I pulled the napkin out of my pocket and held it up. You saved 200 lives with this.
Wait,
She
200
smiled.
lives?
He
Took
was
it
the only
back.
person
The
on.
flight
He was
attendant
like the only person on the plane. Like,
Should've
do you see anybody
slipped
in
me a
these
napkin that
seats?
said,
Like,
the pilot
no.
isn't who. Every time we heard a knock on the front door,
Go. Alright, that's literally me.
Go.
I am the goat.
No, I am.
my dad would
Shut
yell, stealth mode, and we had 30 seconds to kill every light
What
in
a
the house.
kill.
My brother and I would
Let's
race
turn
through
off.
the rooms, flipping switches, yanking
Wait,
cords,
let's
shutting
do
off the
that.
TV mid-show, while some guy outside banged on the front door yelling, I know you're in there, buddy. Dad timed us. Once everything was dark, no talking, no moving, no looking out the windows. We'd sit there until Dad did his owl hoot, which meant all clear.
Alright, enough.
Sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes almost an hour. Afterwards, he'd high-five us and go, real ninjas couldn't do better. He told us stealth mode was top secret. Never tell your teachers, your friends, nobody. Other people wouldn't understand. For years, I believed him. When I was 8, I asked Dad why we had to hide so much. He said some annoying guy kept bothering our family, and stealth mode was how we dealt with him. I felt proud we had a secret skill that could
Why is
outsmart
Bruce
bad
face?
guys.
Hello?
By the time I was 10, I heard the voice
I'm
outside
not trying to
yell
be rude,
something
but
about
bro,
a
you
bet
need
and
braces.
$20. I tugged Dad's sleeve and whispered, is the bad guy trying to steal our money? Dad shushed me so hard I flinched. When
How
I was
do you get
12, I
shushed
broke
so
the
hard
window
that you
rule,
flinched?
peeked through the blinds, and saw a completely normal guy in a polo shirt standing on the porch rubbing his forehead. He didn't look like a criminal. He looked like someone's tired uncle. At 13, I told Dad I was just going to open the door and tell the guy to leave us alone. The color left his face. You absolutely cannot do that.
Shut the
That was the
hell up.
first time stealth mode didn't feel like a game.
What's his
By
high
15 or 16, it barely
black?
happened.
Oh my, that was a terrible pause. But was his eyes pitch black?
That was the
Is
first
is
time
his
stealth
eyes
mode
pitch
didn't
black?
feel like a game. By 15 or 16, it barely happened
Stop.
anymore.
Stop,
But when it
stop,
did,
stop.
Dad would peek through the blinds looking guilty. Mom just shook her head from the couch and muttered something under her
I'm
breath.
not doing this. I am not doing this.
Alright, let's do this.
When I saw Kimberly walking out of the boys' bathroom, I asked, what were you doing in there? She instantly froze. I wasn't. I just accidentally went through the wrong door. But I knew that wasn't the truth. I was about to open it when she grabbed my arm. No, don't. You can't go in there. And before I could even ask her why, I heard someone crying. What was that? I don't know. Maybe it's best if we don't go in there. But I pushed the door open as she said, no. Someone whispered, is someone there? Please help me. I pushed open the stall door and saw Leslie Reddick sitting on the floor holding a bunch of towels. I gasped, realizing she was pregnant and her water broke. Please, help me. Her dad was our gym teacher, and I knew if he found out his daughter was giving birth at school, things would get messy. Just then, Kimberly burst through.
Alright, no.
Dad measured me.
Nah. Well, let's
Let's just.
what's his oldest video?
A teenager tortured my dog.
7th February? Dang. Wait. I looked at more about this guy. United States. He joined 2020. He got 7 million views? Dang.
Okay, let's do this.
Alright, we might react to her story next, but well, if you guys want to see a part 2,
I pet my horse, trying to get her to calm down, when my cousin grabbed her tail and yanked it for the third time.
there's a poll. Choose one. 3 of these buses. This is just a normal bus. Look around then. The full 9 battle bus. My guy's his story is driving the bus. Absolutely. Anyway, so if you guys want to see a part 2, I guess, like, subscribe. See ya.